I'm Elaine Harding. Welcome to my blog .stampwithelaine.com and welcome to the third in my 12 weeks countdown to Christmas. This series is scheduled to finish in the first week of December to avoid those last minute panic. Today's video features the festive fireplace bundle. You can buy it separately, but if you buy it together it will save you 15%. I will show you how to speed up the process of making this card, especially if you're making several of them. It's an easel card with a twist, as there are so many elements to make it. This card is definitely one that needs to be hand delivered, and I'll show you ways to speed up the manufacturing process, as it were. So this is actually my prototype, and as you can see, it's got a votive in the back. You can put a little LED light in the back, and then I love the way that glows. Obviously for this card you need the stamp set, the festive fireplace stamp set, and the framelits. You also need an embossing buddy, the Versamark ink pad, Memento ink, real red ink pads. Also needs some markers for colouring in. I've got crumb cake, chocolate chip, garden green, real red, and daffodil delight. I was told that you really need blocks that fit the size of your stamp. So I've got a variety of sizes. I've got block A for the smallest stamp, block C, block D, block E, block G, and a block H. And the reason you need a stamp, a block that fits the stamp, is because it will prevent your images from getting little marks and ink where you don't want it. You will also need some vellum cardstock, real red cardstock, garden green cardstock, and some whisper white cardstock. I will tell you the sizes they're cut out later. This is the cherry on top DSP, and the pattern I'm using is this striped one, so it looks like wallpaper. Also need the curvy corner trio punch, the big shot, and the magnetic platform, and a heat tool. So that just about covers everything. If you're going to be making lots and lots of these cards, and you're needing to cut an aperture through 3 layers of card, so that's your whisper white layer, the easel card layer, as well as the bottom half of your card base, then it's best to make a template. So this template is the same size as your card, and that's cut at 5 7/8 by 4 1/8, which is 14.8 by 10.6 centimeters. To make your template, you need a piece of whisper white, which is the same size as your card front, and this measures 5 7/8 by 4 1/8, and in centimeters that's 14.8 by 10.6 centimeters. So first you batt your cardstock with the long side on top at 5 5/16 of an inch, or 13.5 centimeters, or you can use this measurement to the right of your cutting groove, which is a lot simpler. So it's 1/2 inch along there, and you cut from 2.5 centimeters. I'm switching to metric now because the trimmer in Europe is in metric along this rule. So it's 2.5 centimeters down to 8 centimeters, and in imperial that is 1 inch down to 3 1/8 inches. Then you scoot your cardstock along to the 8 centimeter mark, which is 3 1/8 inches, and again you cut from 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters down to 8 centimeters or 3 1/8 inches. You flip your cardstock over and this time you line up the right hand edge with the 1 inch mark, and you just cut in between your previous cut. Card base, which is half an A4 sheet. A European size is 4 1/4 inches by 11 3/4 inches, and that is 10.6 by 29.6 centimeters. It's scored on the long side in half at 5 7/8 inches and at 8 3/4 inches, and that is 14.8 centimeters and 22.2 centimeters. So this essentially then becomes your easel mechanism. 2 pieces of Whisper White, and this is cut at 5 1/2 by 3 3/4 inches. So in centimeters that's 14 by 9.5 centimeters. You have a piece of vellum cardstock, and this is cut at 2 1/2 inches by 2 1/2 inches. So that's 6.4 by 6.4 centimeters. You also have a piece of cherry on top DSP, and that measures 3 3/8 inches by 2 1/8 inches, or 8.5 centimeters by 5.9 centimeters. Now we just lay the template on top and draw on the bottom half of the card base and trace a square, which I've done already, and we do the same for this. We trace a square, which I've already done, and we won't cut the Whisper White one yet, because when you actually glue it on, it's glue with the border all round, so it's best to hold fire on that step. Follow the guidelines here. And then just snip the ends. Next you want to adhere the Whisper White piece to the card front. This is your easel piece. I'll put my silicone mat there so it doesn't get glue all over my work surface. And we'll set that aside while we do some stamping. So you need your dust buddy and your garden green cardstock. Give it a good dusting. And here's a tip: if you're doing multiple cards, the best thing is to stamp several, like I have done here. So you need 2 per card. So what I've done is I've inked up my stamp, and it's the garland we need, so ink it up, and you need 2 per card, and press firmly. You can't do too many at a time, because it might dry up. If you do the whole card like this, it might dry up and you won't be able to get the embossing powder on it, but with 5 it's fine. Then you need your clear embossing powder, Oh, I'm going to need the wreath as well, so let's do that too. Now you'll notice that there's a little point to the wreath, and so long as you remember that that's pointing upwards, it just makes it easier for you to cut, because this is the wreath die, and you'll notice that there are tabs on there, and that is to make it easier for you to position your die on the cardstock when you come to cutting it. So we'll put that on as well. Then I just want to colour in my berries. I'll colour in the fir cones with chocolate chip, I think it is. Grab a bit of kitchen towel and rub over it. We bring in our magnetic platform and make our sandwich, bottom cutting plate, cardstock, and then we can put our die. And remember, I stamped it with the pointy bit with the tab at the top, so I know that I need to place those at the top as well. And one for the wreath, top cutting plate, and then I can do multiple cuts with just one pass of the Big Shot, so I'll do that off camera. Next we want to stamp our stockings and also the bow, so we'll need another piece of spare Whisper white cardstock. I'm going to stamp it in Memento black ink. If you mount your stockings on a block, you can stamp 3 at a time, and I've used block D on this, just to remember to space them far enough apart, because you need space for the die to cut. Does that make sense? And the little bow in real red. And before we cut those, I want to colour my stockings. Bring back my magnetic platform, flip my plate over. That sort of prevents it from bowing. So you see what I mean about spacing it apart. And then the bow there, top cutting plate, and I'll go and run that through the Big Shot. We want to do our vellum piece. Remember the embossing buddy, and we need our Versamark ink, Fireside stamp, which I've mislaid, found it, so try and stamp that in the middle. And this time I want to emboss it with black embossing powder. Allow it to cool, and then you flip it over on the back and you do a bit of colouring on the back. So I'm using chocolate chip again for the logs. You don't have to be accurate with this, just so long as you stay within the lines, the black lines. Daffodil Delight for the flames of the fire. Need to allow that to dry. Isn't that pretty? Let's bring that back, and I need a bit of scratch paper. Fireside stamp with Memento black ink. Oh dear. So we need to adjust that because this hole is too big. So attach your cardstock to the card front. You see, I'm human, mistakes do happen. So let's stamp the fireplace first. So I'll use that as my template. My Memento black ink. And let's do the change of plan. That didn't quite go according to plan, but we can always work around it. Next, attach your vellum. There's glue again. Oh. And remember to have the embossed side facing outwards to the front of your card. And the coloured side on the back. And then you just need to run a bit of glue on the bottom half of your card base. And then place that one on top. Hold it down, make sure it bonds. Put a bit of glue on the front, on the back of the cardstock, and pop that above the mantelpiece. Then you glue the wreath onto the middle of that at the top, and then the bow. You want dimensionals on the back of your garlands. Snip those in half for your stockings. I'm ready to put that over the mantelpiece. I knew I'd forgotten something. I'd forgotten to colour the brickwork. Not going too well, Harding. Right, that's the front. Now we can tackle the inside. And we need another piece of Whisper White. And this time we want to use this corner rounder. You insert it in the guidelines there. Punch opposite corners. Whoops, nearly made another mistake. And then lift that up to see where I want to put the stopper. I'd say about there. So take the protective layers off, the backs of the dimensionals. There we go. And last thing to do is to stamp my sentiment. And this time I need the real red ink. All that remains is for you just to put the little tea light behind it. And there you have it. So a supply list will appear at the end of the video. Just pause it to make a note of the items I've used. If you haven't got a demonstrator, I'd love to be yours. Feel free to order your supplies through my online store, which you can access through my blog.stampwithelaine.com. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, even though I made a couple of boo-boos. Hope you've enjoyed it, warts and all. And thanks for visiting. Pop back for more inspiration next week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.